Hello friends, welcome in this video tutorial. In previous video tutorial we have learned uh, how to save or persist a state of uh, an Java object into database using Hibernate 5, right? In this video tutorial we are going to see complete CRUD operations. So what is CRUD? So CRUD is just an acronym in RDBMS. So here C stands for create, so which already we have seen using save and persist. Now R stands for read, how you are going to read, data from the database, so that's the read. Update means if you would like to update one or many records in the database side, then that's the update. Now delete, if you want to delete data from the database side, that's the delete. So this all four operations we are going to look into this example. So let me show you this project. This project already I have created. Some of the files are already I have created. So if you look at the form.xml, I have added for the Java MySQL connector. So here we are going to use MySQL database, and we have added dependency for the Hibernate 5 to 11, that's the latest version. So this is all about this form.xml. Now configuration file, if you look, I have specified the database information, and these things already we have declared, we have discussed in the previous video tutorial. We have registered our entity class as well. So if you look into the entity class, this is our entity class, which is binded with the employee underscore table. We have defined this property as a ID primary key. This is one of the identifier. Now we have specified the column name, and as primary key is auto generated. So that's all about this. And we have a utility class which is responsible to basically create the session factory. So we have a factory method in get session factory, which creates session factory in a static block, and that gets returned to the caller or client, right? And here is our client program, which we had written in this project, right, in previous video tutorial, save and persist example. So here I'm going to refactor this code. So let me select this code snippet, and I would select refactor and say create employee. Method name I'm going to specify as create employee. Okay, so basically this creates an employee record into the database. So if you look into the Hibernate CRUD.xml, here I have given the HBM2DDL value as update. So this will create a database table if that doesn't exist, right? So if you look into the our test database, there is no table as of now. So now let's run this client program, and you'll see table will be created. So here you can see table is created based on the specified metadata, which we have specified using annotations. Now this is gonna alter, and there is unique constraint is applied on the email, and finally one insert statement is triggered. Employee is created with the ID 1. If you go and refresh this database, then you see table is created and there will be one record. So let's try to insert one more record over here. So at this time Hibernate, now second time Hibernate is gonna trigger only insert query, because table is already created in this run, right? So now let's create one more record. I will say Martin Bingle, and I would say Martin, and let's say salary is 50,000, and let's run this program again, and this is gonna trigger, Hibernate is going to trigger only inserted statement, and employee is created with ID 2. If you go and refresh the database, you'll see there is second record as well, right? So this is all about how to persist or create a record into database, right? So that already we have seen. Now second example we are going to see read employee by or get employee by ID. So let's give the method name as get employee by ID, and here I'm going to pass session. So let's create a local method. So I'm going to create a local method, and here we have a session. Session is having another method is called get, which takes first parameter as a entity class type, and second is the serializable, that is nothing but the employee ID or identifier. So here I'm going to specify employee.class, and second I'm going to specify ID as is 2. right? So this is going to return us directly employee object, right? So if you look into Hibernate 4, then this API is going to return you an object type, right? So and in that case you will have to typecast into your business object, employee object. But Hibernate 5 implementation has been changed, and directly that is going to return you a directly employee object, right? So here we are going to print employee information. So we have already overridden toString method. If this is going to return you null, that means we can print a message employee that doesn't exist with provided ID. So that's it. Okay, so let's run this project and let's see what output we are getting. Now Hibernate has to fire a select query. So Hibernate has fired select query, and here you can see the employee information is displayed, right? So now if you pass the employee is 2, then we are expecting this message. So still Hibernate is going to fire a select query first, and this will come up with a null, and else block will be executed saying that employee does not exist with the provided ID, right? So that's all about the read. Now next thing we are going to see update employee, right? So I would say update employee by ID, and again I'm gonna pass session as an argument, method argument, and let's create this method as well. So create this method and update. I'm going to copy this code. Sorry, I'm going to copy where is that get we have written a code snippet for get. So where is we have written code to get employee by ID. So this code snippet I'm going to copy and I'll put it over here, and here employee, let's pass ID 2, and if this returns you not null, that means this record is existing with this identifier, right? So if you go inside, and here I'll modify the employee object, so which is a persistence object which currently exists on the database side, and I'm going to modify its whatever attributes you want to modify, you can modify. So I'm going to modify salary. So even though if you want to modify more than one attributes, you are free to go for that. So current employee whose ID is 2, whose salary is 50,000, I'm going to make 90,000. So and here I'm going to begin a transaction. So here we'll have to start a transaction. Now what I'll do session dot update after modifying the object. So we have update method, right? So you will have to pass this modify object, and finally you will have to do session dot get transaction. So current transaction will have to get and commit, so that permanent change will happen on the database side. Now let's run this program and see. So at this point of time, Hibernate is going to select Hibernate is going to trigger two queries. First select, right, because of this line of code, and once you modify this, it's a state of an entity, and once you try to commit, then Hibernate is going to fire a update query as well. So if you look into the console, you can see initially Hibernate has fired select query, then after it Hibernate has triggered updated query, right? If you go and see current previous salary was 50. If I refresh, then so this is still showing this is still showing I don't know. Okay, so there is some problem with tool. Let's select the data again and see. Now it's 90,000, right? So update is working, but there is problem with this update, right? If you look into the set, then you are basically Hibernate is basically overriding the all its value, right? Getting from the database and overriding it. So that's the problem. So this query will not be considered as a tuned query. So here Hibernate Hibernate supposed to fire a query for only salary, because salary was modified, right? So those things will resolve. But if I run the same program again, then at this time Hibernate will not trigger a update, right? Because in this case basically Hibernate, when you get data with this ID, then at this point of time Hibernate saves data into the session cache, and when if you do not modify a state of this object, still you try to update, then Hibernate will compare with the object which is saved into a session, and that will not hit to the database. So that will basically that is trying to avoid the unnecessary hit to the database. So that's the funda behind. If you change this now 40,000, then after that what I'll do, I want update query should fire on the only salary. Then one annotation we will have to specify, that is dynamic update. So dynamic update. So now at this time if I run this project, then Hibernate is gonna trigger a update query on salary only, right? Because salary is modified only. So first Hibernate is triggered query on the select, because we are selecting the data, and at this time you can see in set only salary is involved. If you try to change some other attributes, so those attributes also will be involved, right? So that's all about the update. Now finally we'll look into the delete, how we can delete a record from the database based on the identifier or primary key. So I would say delete employee by ID, and here again we are going to pass session as a method argument. So let's create a private method. So I would say create method, and here I'm going to copy some code snippet which we have written for the update. So let's copy this guy and paste it over here. So here we are passing employee ID as a 2. So this ID I have just hard coded, but you can take from the keyboard as well using a scanner, and there are many ways to take input from the keyboard. So if does not come with null, that means employee exists with this identifier on the database side, right? So what you will do, you will begin the transaction, and instead of update you will have to call the delete method, which is in the session interface, right? And you commit the transaction. If I run it, then Hibernate is gonna fire 2 queries. First select, and Hibernate is make sure that this object exists with this identifier, then that will go inside that, and that will try to delete the record from the database. So if I go to the console, then you can see first select query has been fired, and second employee is deleted from the database. If I go and refresh, then employee with ID 2 is deleted from the database. So that's all these things. If you specify ID as a 220, so this does not exist at all. So at this point of time you'll see Hibernate is saying that employee doesn't exist with the provided ID. So this way we have completed all CRUD operation, right, in Hibernate, right? So that's all I wanted to cover in this video tutorial, guys. So in next video tutorial we'll explore some more things in Hibernate. So thanks for watching this video, and this code you'll get on the GitHub, and GitHub location I'm going to specify in the video description itself, so that you can download the code and you can run it locally. So thanks for watching this video, and see you there in next video tutorial.